special good afternoon to all our listeners. This is the third official episode of Woke. Today is a very special day. We have two powerful young people as guests on the program, and that of Mr. Earl Maitland and Miss Cassandra Mitchell, who is no stranger to the program. So I would just invite my guests to introduce themselves.
Hi, okay. Afternoon, everyone that's viewing. My name is Earl Maitland. I am, as stated, an advocate for justice and equality in Grenada.
Good afternoon again. I'm Cassandra. I am an advocate. Most of us here who's going to be on this platform, we are. It's a platform to promote what young people are doing in Grenada to make a difference. Good afternoon again.
And today we're gonna have a very healthy discussion on a number of issues affecting young people throughout our trial and state. So I would just ask all to just share with us, some thoughts on current affairs.
Okay, so basically, in Grenada, what's happening, there's a lot of injustices. Persons are not given equal opportunity to do almost anything you could think of. All our human rights are neglected. It's really sad. It's something that needs to be addressed urgently. Um, Based on what I've seen, it cannot be addressed in Grenada at this time. The current state of affairs that we have, it is less of a democracy and more of a dictatorship. As I said, it's not the most friendly. It's not the most um, welcoming to persons that actually live in this country. Many times we have spoken, we have assisted victims. The two other persons here as well that share this platform today. I have met them through the common goal in ensuring that all Grenadians' rights are honored. Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, wherever it is. Um, Nothing has been done so far on the part of the persons in authority, but we continue to stand against these injustices, be it health, labor, police brutality, you name it. We actually have it here. A majority of these injustices have been censored by the media over the last few years. I am grateful, I am thankful that we do have platforms such as Mr. Grant here to actually bring the truth to the viewing public, to the diaspora, to the world, that this is actually what is happening in Grenada. It's not censored. It is the sad reality that we face in Grenada.
Yes, and just a correction, it's not Mr. Grant's program. It's actually a program that's pioneered and managed by young people, like myself, to give other young persons who are making a contribution and doing things in different communities an opportunity to speak about the things that we are passionate about, whatever issues it may be. Again, Earl mentioned that we, as young people, we believe that the media is censored, so we have to create our own platform where we can get our messages across, where we can talk about issues that concern us as young people, and hopefully mobilize other young persons to be a part of this movement to discuss issues that affect us, and not just discuss these issues, but find solutions to those issues as well. Because over the years, I've been saying, and I've been a part of so many workshops and forums that talk about climate change and human rights and domestic violence. And while stakeholders are doing or have done work over the years, as young people, we think that there is a lot more that needs to be done to address these issues, because currently we are the majority and we are the ones who are directly affected by many of the issues, unemployment and political issues, social issues, and not just discuss of course the infringement of our human rights. That's why this platform is created, and we will, over the weeks and months to come, try to get other young persons who are doing stuff in their community to speak and to share some of the things that they're doing. And if there are even young persons who may have issues, feel free to be a part of the platform and share those issues, and maybe together as young people we can find a solution to those issues and not just keep talking about it over the years.
Guys, I must say that I'm proud, to be a part of that movement and to have two powerful young persons as yourself, joining the front line for the Grenadian people. As all would have touched, the injustice in our society, it is countless, and we have a major silence problem in Grenada whereby most people are silent, and work is about disturbing that silence. It is about disturbing their critical faculties and to address the burning issues of the Grenadian people and to
But
create
you keep calling us
solutions.
powerful young people. I am sure Earl would agree that we're just ordinary people doing maybe extraordinary things
Yeah.
because no one else have the balls, if I should say so, to do it themselves. So we are stepping out and speaking up. So we are not powerful. We are just ordinary people doing things in our communities, and I'm sure Earl would agree. So it doesn't take anyone powerful to step out and to be a voice for the voiceless. So we are not powerful, just ordinary people.
Once again, my sister is being quite modest, and I appreciate that as well. And I'm gonna share a story. A few years ago, I was looking at this animated version of Superman, and there was an ordinary reporter. While Earth was being invaded, he took to the front line, and he tried to fight out the invasion, and in doing so, he lost his life. And Superman was in deep reflection. He said to himself, in the end, the world didn't really need a Superman. Ordinary people can come together, organize, and fight for a greater good. And as you stated, we're not powerful, but we're ordinary young people who see the need to address some of the burning concerns and to create solution, to help a country move forward, because we all are passionate about our country. If we was not passionate, we could have been in our homes doing something else. But to be a part of this movement, we saw the great need in our communities, in our parishes, throughout our beautiful tri-island state. And work is action, is young people taking affirmative action, because we have heard the talk. This country is filled with a lot of eloquent people, and to be a part of that action, I feel very humble, to be in the presence of you guys, and we're gonna definitely, expand the program to other young persons as well who's willing to share. And to be a
One of the
part
things
that
that I
conversation.
want to address, Earl, I know that you have been advocating for human rights and the infringement of human rights. Maybe we can use this platform to educate those out there who don't understand what their
Yeah.
human rights are, maybe the definition of human rights, and as how that definition actually comes into play into our laws. Because we have seen you over the years talking about issues with law enforcement and public workers. So maybe for our fellow young persons out there, young people out there, you can talk about human rights
Yeah,
and what
yeah,
it means,
yeah.
and not just human rights, our responsibility. Because
Uh-huh.
many times we talk about having human rights, having rights, but we forget many times that we have responsibilities. So maybe we can go back and just educate the listening public out there as to
Uh-huh.
what those human rights are.
Okay. So basically, your rights are things that you are entitled to, things that cannot be taken away. Um, there are some circumstances, for instance, your freedom of movement could be taken away. For instance, if you were sentenced for a conviction of a crime. Other than that, it seems as though persons are not aware that they are entitled to certain things. And this is one of the reasons why we do pay taxes, right? Our government is supposed to use the taxes that have been collected to ensure that we all live without want, as was stated, Cassandra, in the last meeting we had, right? Without want or without fear. Um,
And that's
basically,
within our constitution for
right,
those who are
right,
listening.
right. That's
Yeah.
correct. So basically, just being born as a human being, we are entitled to a lot of different things, rights. For instance, the United Nations has sometime in the early 1900s started this movement of a group of countries and recognized and acknowledged that just being a human being, we are entitled to certain things. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came about. It was an agreement between different countries that persons have a right to life, a right to shelter, a right to food, a right to justice. Everyone should be recognized as an equal, right? This baffles me a lot, seeing that persons that have been elected to sit in office and honor those rights, to fulfill those dreams that we have, those needs that we have, they have taken the offices, the oath of office, and made it seem as though they are not elected to serve us, but the honorable ones. And we see it many times. We are demanded to call persons honorable while we suffer. We actually pay taxes, and some of us are homeless. Now, one may ask, how does a person pay taxes? Persons pay taxes just by simply going to the grocery store and buying a tin of milk or a pack of Cricks. When you look at your receipts, you would see the amount of taxes that have been paid to the
So
government.
before you go on to, for the persons who are listening who may be lost as to exactly what we're talking about, you mentioned earlier that within our constitution there are inalienable rights
Yeah.
that are enshrined within our constitution,
Yeah.
basic needs and necessities that we as Grenadians should have.
Yeah.
So like maybe the right
Okay,
to
right.
to food,
Right. So
maybe to interact.
now, funny you would say that. I have a copy here of the Grenada Constitution. Right? In this constitution, I would like to encourage every person, every citizen in this country to acquire one of these. You do not have to purchase this. This is actually online. You could just go on to Google, type in Grenada Constitution. It comes up. Chapter 1 in section 1 of the Grenada Constitution. It tells us exactly what our fundamental human rights are. Right, we have a right to freedom of speech, a right to life, a right to security, a right to movement, a right to a fair trial, and everything. Once we educate ourselves with this, this is when we become powerful, as Marshall said. We are actually powerful persons. Although Cassandra might disagree humbly, right? Education makes you powerful. Education is something that cannot be taken away. We do have a right to work. We have a right to so many different things that we are not aware of. I'd like to encourage persons not to take it from me, but to use whatever time you have to ensure that you do investigate and analyze. It's actually straightforward. I'm not sure if we have enough time. I could just simply read just a section, just one part of the
preamble
Constitution.
of the Constitution.
Right? I'll just start off.
Maybe you should read the preamble, because that will
preamble.
give
Okay.
the basis of the Constitution.
Okay, so in the preamble of the Constitution, which is on page 11, it's, as I said, it's really straightforward. It says, whereas the people of Grenada, that's all of us, have affirmed that their nation is founded upon principles that acknowledge the fatherhood and supremacy of God and man's duty toward his fellow man. Part B recognizes that in as much as spiritual development is supreme importance to human existence and the highest expression thereof, it is the aspiration to serve that end all their strength and resources. Part C firmly believe the dignity, and this is something that we have lost along the way, and it has been encouraged to be lost by politicians, right? The dignity of human values, and that all men are endowed by the Creator with equal and inalienable rights. Notice the word equal, right? We are all equal. Reason and conscience, that rights and duties are correlatives in every social and political activity of man, and that while rights exalt individual freedom, duties express the dignity of that freedom. Part D express, whereas the people of Grenada express their respect for the rule of law, right? So it does not give any, how should I say,
Individual.
right, any individual any authority to neglect the law, right? Because a person is an authority, he or she does not have the right to not follow the laws of Grenada, right? Express their respect for the rule of law, and since moral conduct constitutes the noblest flowering of their culture and their plural heritage, regard it as the duty of every man always to hold it in the highest respect. Part E, whereas the people of Grenada reiterate that the ideal of free men, because we are all free people, enjoying freedom from fear. And this is something that we have spoken about many times. There's too much fear in this country. There's too much fear in the world. Freedom of expression. Persons are afraid to speak of the injustices that they face. But here we have it in the Constitution that we as free people should enjoy freedom from fear and want, right? It can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social, and political, civil, and cultural rights. Part F, whereas the people of Grenada desire that their constitution should reflect the above mentioned principles and beliefs which represent those high ideals upon which their nation is founded, and make provisions for ensuring the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms, right? And in the latter part of the preamble it says, and the final part, now therefore the following provisions shall have effect as the Constitution of Grenada. And it goes on to say that persons, whereas people in Grenada, no matter their political opinions, and this is something that is extremely important. It actually says in chapter 1, section 1, no matter your political opinion, your place of origin, your race, your gender, whatever it is, you have a right to life, liberty, security, you have a right to work, a right for freedom of expression, association. I am aware that persons right now in Grenada have been refused their right to associate with unions. We see it many times in highly recognized businesses, international
But before you even
businesses.
go there, I heard you mention that politicians take away our rights from us.
Yes.
And I don't believe that that is a true
Mhm.
analysis to make of the current political situation in Grenada.
Mhm.
I believe that we, the people,
Mhm.
allow politicians to take away our rights.
Mhm.
Simply because you have a copy of the Constitution.
Mhm.
Many in the community, they
Mhm.
don't know what the constitutional
Yeah.
rights are. They don't know what's within the Constitution.
I
So lack of knowledge
Mhm.
allows individuals to take advantage of us because
Mhm.
we don't educate ourselves as to what are our rights and what are our responsibilities as Grenadians.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but for instance, if I was to go to a mechanic and I have limited knowledge about vehicles, and that mechanic actually told me that various parts of the vehicle was broken, and I had no idea, that mechanic would have deceived me. And when I say they have taken away our rights, they continue to deceive the population, the persons that are not aware of what their rights are. Part of their duties is to educate the population, let them know that you have a right to do this. This is
But
not
the
a favor.
population, Earl, and I've said this over and over, also has a right to educate themselves
They do, they
as to
do.
what their rights and responsibilities are. We are giving too much power to our leaders, too much power to our politicians, and it's enshrined within the Constitution. And while you're reading the Constitution, I remember an argument during the constitutional reform process, the whole discussion on the last referenda that we had, where persons were saying that it's the Constitution is not legal. It was never passed as law. I don't know if you can share a little bit about that debate, because you hear it a lot, and even with you and I being within that group of persons, educating ourselves on the Constitution.
Okay.
Then you hear the debate as well. Is the
yes.
Constitution a legally binding document?
Yeah.
But that is what we've been using for years.
Well, basically, Kassandra and I are part of a group, a newly formed group, caucus, that has been started by other advocates of different ages, right? We aim to educate, go to different communities and educate Grenadians, how you say, Caraconians?
And P.T.
And
Martin,
P.T.
so you have to
Martin,
recognize that.
right? We would like to go to these different communities and educate persons about the Constitution, what the Constitution is, what their rights are. The truth is, the first time I ever read the Constitution was actually like 3 years ago, and I was a full-grown adult at that time. I was actually like 30. It took me 30 years to read the Constitution. And, although I have been through many trials and tribulations under the present administration, I look at the bright side. And I thank them for the injustices, because I would not have been or recognized the strength that I would have had to deal with so much injustice. One of the reasons why I said also that these politicians actually take away our rights and everything, even with the knowledge I have been refused my right to be represented by the Ministry of Labor for the last 3 years.
And that is because there seems to be a pattern over the years where people who have been victimized by administration, whether it is the current administration or administrations in the past, they have refused to speak up and let other people know exactly some of the experiences. So it's not. I don't think it's an issue where because you're knowledgeable and because maybe the administration has power, full power of the house and of government. There is no official of opposition, but I think it goes back to us, the people, again. Our inability to come together as a team, and that is why this platform is created, so that now that you have knowledge of the Constitution and your rights and your responsibilities, we can now go out there and tell young people, get a copy of the Constitution, understand your constitutional rights and responsibilities, so that we can hold our leaders accountable, whether it's the current administration, whether it's the past administration. Knowledge is power. You said
Yes,
knowledge is power.
It is.
So again, share your experiences with the listening public. You said that you were 30 when you started reading the Constitution. So now you have that book in your hand, and you are learning how powerful those laws and that's the foundation of who we are as Grenadians are. Then we can now empower other young people and say to them, buy a copy, get yourself, educated and empowered exactly what is enshrined within the Constitution, as well as, if they like, they can also be part of the committee, because we are not going out there to teach people about the Constitution. I think you said that wrong. We are going out there to kind of figure out exactly how many people understand the Constitution, what it is they understand about it. But first, we have to educate ourselves first, so that we know that exactly what is enshrined, so that when we go there, we can have an understanding and be on the same level with other people in the communities. So that is why platforms like these are created, because we have no other platform to talk about this. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to hear from the listening public,
Uh-huh.
because I love the debate as to whether or not
Yeah.
the Constitution is a legally binding
Yeah, yeah,
argument. I
yeah.
think John Rollo is
Yeah,
one
I know
who
Mr.
thinks,
Rollo has
yes.
championed that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the one who
yeah.
believes and has been making that argument
Yeah.
over the years
It
that
was
the Constitution is not
yeah.
binding, but it's what has
Mhm.
we have been governed by
Uh-huh.
for years.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
can we change it at this
Well,
point?
yeah, we could change the constitution. We need the two-thirds majority, right? Based on my knowledge, it seems as though the constitution was not put into effect back in 1973, right? The legal way, the legally expected way. It was argued by persons that in the referendum before the last in 2016, persons would have voted and said, leave the constitution as it is. So it is the
But it's
legally.
interesting, Earl,
Uh-huh.
that people are saying leave the Constitution as it is,
And they're
but
not
do the
aware.
people understand
Yeah.
what's in the Constitution?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's a debate.
Uh-huh.
Leave the Constitution as it is, but do
Uh-huh.
you know what's in the
Yeah,
Constitution?
that's one of the problems.
That's
That's one of the problems. And I think that, we many times we're being taken advantage of because some persons do not fully understand what's there. And the silence reflects that disadvantage. When persons are scared to speak because they believe that, they will be sued, or defamation, a character brought to court for that, and,
But the Constitution, again, gives
Yes.
us freedom of expression.
right, that is
And
correct.
the right
Yeah,
to
in
speak
the
out.
in the interest of moral
Yes.
responsibility, right?
Yes.
Public morality.
But moral responsibility, even that topic
Yeah.
is subjective because
Yeah.
you speak to any one individual and ask what
Yeah.
are morals, what is morals moral to you,
Uh-huh.
and you may get different definitions.
Yes,
So
yes.
what we're trying to do is to spark that discussion, that debate among young people so that they understand that we have rights, we have responsibilities. Our leaders have rights, they have responsibilities. Are they keeping those responsibilities? Are they infringing on our human rights? As something that you have been advocating for years. So we have to pay attention to this because we hear so many stories when we go out into different communities about police brutality, about political victimization. How do we address this as young people? And first thing is education. Education is power. Educate ourselves. What are our rights? What are our responsibilities? What are the rights of a prime minister, minister, and other people in different high-level positions, as well as the persons at the middle and lower level as well. We need to start having that discussion as young people.
Yes, it's most important that we have no serious discussion. I just want to read a few comments from our viewers. T. Richard said, "Good afternoon, guys. Let me applaud you for this initiative. I do trust that you'll be able to get your views across, not just criticizing, but please endeavor to show the path forward and lead it um, in your capacity as crusaders for betterment." Randall Robinson says the population has a duty to educate itself about its rights, which basically ties into what you would have said, Kassandra. T. Richards as well said, "Guys, the thing to watch is this: the wording of our laws are written in such a way that if you're not legally minded or accustomed to the old English, the ordinary person wouldn't understand. For example, whereas, therefore, to name a few." So these are some of the comments.
And that is why the last program I was talking about bridging that gap between older people and younger people. There is a myth that older people do not want to support us as young people, and there's also a misunderstanding among our demographic that the older that we are misunderstood. They don't want to support us. Older folks think that young people just want to sit on the block and smoke weed and drink rum and give trouble, and that is not the truth. So So in reference to understanding the laws, we are not sitting here on this platform claiming to understand it. We are not here sitting that pretending that we have all the information that we don't. So that's why we are reaching out, and I know I've been doing it within my own space, to older people who have education, who have knowledge, to come together and to pass on that information. So if there's a lawyer out there who wants to sit with young people and give us a better understanding as to what the Constitution says, we appreciate it. We don't have all the answers, but we are trying to empower ourselves as young people so that we are armed with information when we go out there and try to be, as the commenter said, crusaders for other young people.
Crusaders for everyone, right?
Crusaders for everyone. Yes, let me correct that, for older folks as well.
Because we don't want to create that divide, but we want to be that unifying force in our society, bringing everyone together for, as I would say, a common goal and a common good, which I would say is the building of our society and the building of our nation. And as Kassandra said, we have to be able to bridge generational gap. And what are the issues that the older folks have with the young people? What are some of the issues that the younger folks have with the older people? And then let's sit down at a table and try to trash out some of those differences and to find common ground for Grenada. Because at the end of the day, this disconnect cannot continue.
And we are not just speaking for ourselves. I have to always re-emphasize that point. When we sit on this platform, we are speaking for the voiceless, the young people who do not have the courage and the strength to come and talk about their issues, but they may feel comfortable sharing it with us as advocates, because we go there in communities all the time and we hear so many stories, but that individual, that group of people may be afraid to speak out. So we have to be their voice. So yes, we are crusading, but we also need support, to keep this platform going, and we need to encourage other young people out there. There's strength in numbers. And I've said this here in Grenada, I've said it across the region, because although we're separated by waters, we all share similar issues, social, political, economic issues, but there is strength in numbers, and we have to come together as a group. I think across, and if you guys can share your own experience, but I think across the board, we are, as young people, we feel that we are being stifled by the current administration. And I have to pinpoint them, because they are in government. We feel stifled, we feel like we don't have a voice, and we are not here criticizing and saying that they are not doing, but we as young people, we are saying that they are not doing enough, and we have to hold them accountable at some point. We are saying that we are demanding more employment opportunities. We are demanding that they stop infringing on our human rights. We have a right for freedom of expression. We have a right to basic needs. You look at our health sector. I know that you highlighted that, Earl, some weeks ago. It's horrible. We are demanding as young people that the government place more emphasis on our health sector so that we wouldn't die from a trivial thing like a nail prick. Now, I actually know a couple of years ago, a man went into the hospital for a nail prick and he died a few weeks later. Of course, there were other complications because he was an older person. But no, we are demanding all of those things. We are saying to our administration that as young people, we do not think that enough is being done. That's why we have created this platform, so that we can have a voice, because we do feel stifled. We feel like we are voiceless. Many times, up to yesterday, I attended a forum, and the term youth and gender and women is always thrown out, because it's the in term now to get funding from many donor agencies. I'm going to be realistic. A lot of donor agencies are asking that emphasis, there is a gender strategy and emphasis on gender balance and emphasis on youth, but we are not seeing that actually being trickled down. We're not seeing it being implemented in our society. And of course, government may argue, of course, this, we're doing the Imani program and we're doing this. But I think that the reality of the situation is not being accepted.
Just last night, a young man from River Road did a video, although it was filled with some obscenities, right? It clearly shows the frustrations of people. He has alleged, I have not seen the dead body or anything like that, I was not there, but in the video he has alleged that one of his friends apparently fainted. They called the hospital to get an ambulance to come pick up the person from River Road, in River Road. And although we just recently received 5 ambulances, 5 brand new ambulances, he was told that there's no ambulance there to pick up that person. Um, According to the young man, when they got to the hospital, there were actually 3 ambulances there. One with the door open. The video, you could see his pain. You could see that he was genuine, and he was saddened because he actually lost his friend. Eventually, he stated in the video that the nurse was calling for oxygen, and there was no oxygen. I have been to the hospital last year, I've been this year, and I was told that sometime last year when Rosemary broke her leg that there was no spirits in the hospital. And that's crazy. What is really happening? How could we have a general hospital that has no spirits? This year, sometime in January, I was told that there's no hand sanitizer. There's nothing to wash the hands in the general hospital. Many times we look at the easy way out. It's always easier to blame someone else. Like it's easier to blame a nurse or a doctor, saying that we have to sit here for 8 hours because it's too slow. But if we actually be realistic and objective and we look at what's happening, there's only one nurse, right? There's one nurse, so obviously the time it will take longer. And who is responsible for hiring the amount of nurses that we need, an adequate number of nurses and doctors? Many times I have been called, or well, once upon a time I was called an NNP, no, sorry, an NDC, whatever. So it seems as though every time someone speaks realistic, you're against the NNP, right? I have been said by some supporters of the New National Party that I speak to promote my political platform. I continue saying that I started this struggle before getting involved in politics. I did not win an election, right? I came nowhere close to winning an election. But the struggle is real. I'm doing this as a citizen
But,
of
but
this
we need to
country.
get away from that mindset.
Uh-huh.
As an advocate, I have said
Mhm.
that I support youth
Mhm.
involvement in politics, regardless as whether it's Senator Ron, who
Mhm.
is with the NDC,
Mhm.
whether it's yourself who has started your own political party. What is wrong with young people getting involved in politics? What is wrong with if you are promoting your political
Mhm.
party? But I think what we are failing to do is to put attention to or place emphasis on the message.
Mhm.
I see nothing wrong with
Mhm.
young people getting involved in
Yeah,
politics.
the
When we just had the celebration of the revolution.
Mhm.
Bishop and
Mhm.
even the Honorable Prime Minister and many others who are part of that era were young people themselves.
They
I
were,
think
they
we are missing the message. I've known you. You've been promoting advocacy for a number of years prior to getting involved in politics. We really need to get away from that mindset and start focusing on issues. And again, we are not here to bash any administration. We are just here to point out issues. We are young people. We live in communities. We are affected by these issues, and we are not seeing that any of these issues have been adequately addressed by the current administration. And everything starts at the policy level.
Mhm.
But if you tear every situation apart, it starts at the policy level. We have to have policies and legislations implemented to address any problem, whether it's within the health sector, the social sector, whether it's within the judicial system. They have to be legislations
So
and laws.
let me ask you all, do you all believe that, based on your observations, do you believe that there is separation between the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive?
No.
What about you, sir? Do you believe there's, based on what you have experienced, based on your observations?
I will most definitely have to agree with my sister as well,
Mhm.
because you cannot see the separation at all.
Yeah, because you see what
Yeah.
happens, whether it is this administration or the one before them or the one before them.
Mhm.
Many times when a party wins an election,
Mhm.
you notice that there is a change in positions. And
Yes,
we
yes.
understand why, because let's be realistic.
Uh-huh.
Why you can't have somebody within
Mhm.
a position that's not supporting you
Mhm.
as a political leader, as a
Mhm.
candidate who has just won his or her seat.
Mhm.
So certain changes may have to be made. But
Mhm.
what I think has happened over the years is that all of these sectors have been infiltrated with petty politics that we cannot take up our political blindfolds. We
I
have to
agree.
see everything as partisan politics, and we are missing the big picture. And I think that is where the issue lies. If I mean, it's okay to support a political party, and that's my personal view.
Mhm.
But when you make that your support of a political party
Mhm.
stop you from doing your job,
Uh-huh.
that's where I think the issue lies.
When you're being paid to serve the public, right?
And when you've been paid to serve,
and
to do your job.
and it's actually costing the state. Look at the last, um, with the last case we had, costing us 76,000 plus more monies for the ex cabinet secretary, right? So sometimes we do have to point out the obvious. It's not criticizing, but pointing out the obvious. Sometimes persons need to hear over and over. Many people respond differently. Some people learn by sight, some by listening. Um, it got to the point where we have to keep pointing out the obvious to get the reality that this is what is happening. But in conclusion, we have all agreed that we need unity in the country. We need a lot of unity. We have to be patriots of our country and not of a particular political platform. Right? At the end of the day, we all Grenadians. We all took the pledge. I know when I was in school, I did the pledge, and every Friday morning I did the pledge, and I did the national anthem, and I had pledged to uphold the laws and the institutions of my country. And this is exactly what I'm doing. You spoke about Superman earlier, and that was one of my favorite shows when I was a boy. And it's so awesome, I would say, to do the right thing, to save a life, right? Instead of taking from the poor, right? Or ensuring that persons remain needy and whatever it is. It's the only word I could really come up with right now. It's really sad. It's unfortunate that this is accepted behavior. Now, what I would like to see personally is that despite whatever political affiliations we have, all persons are treated equally. Our politicians do not come around once every 4 years. It has not started last election. It has not started the election before that. Based on what I've heard, ever since, we do not see our politicians except for every 4 years. Right? I like to see
But
them.
we continue to accept it, and that's why the discussion is always going to go back to the decisions of the people, the lack of decisions of the people. We continue to accept these sort of leadership qualities in our leaders. We continue to vote for individuals because we like them. And I know I've been on the ground. I've heard people saying that they're voting not for the candidate,
Yeah,
but for the
party.
leader.
Yeah, the party.
And I say to them, well, what has the candidate done for your constituency? And many times, I know in one particular case, they say, well, nothing, but I ain't voting for he.
Yeah.
I voting for the leader. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I asked the individual, what did the leader do for you? Oh, well, when my son was sick, he helped me. And but what about, and then I went on to ask, but what about other people who are affected by the lack of decisions or the corrupt political practices?
Yeah,
What
the-
about
the-
them? Don't you think about your
Yeah.
neighbor who's not getting support
Yeah, yeah,
because he or she may support the other political party? When are we going to address these issues. And you said it, this is not something that happened this election or the election before, but this platform is to target young people and hopefully change that mindset. And we may not see it in our lifetimes, but we are starting as advocates in our respective fields. We are starting somewhere and hoping that we create that change for the generation after us, our grandchildren, or great-great-grandchildren. So that is why we are doing this. And hopefully I wish I could see change in my lifetime. But
if I should say, it's high time that we have a political reset. We need to press the political reset button, if I should say. Politics should not be a seasonal thing where every 4 years you come to the people because you need their votes to be elected. I see politics as being real time, having a real-time interaction with the people, addressing their needs, and to build communities and a country as a whole. And once the people are empowered with knowledge like the constitutional rights, I think that we will be positioned in a place to require this of our leaders and I would say politicians. The standards would be much higher because they will be dealing with an informed population. And the mama guy will not work. Once again, I just want to make another point. It's time that we be object-minded. As you can say, you raise a number of issues, and people would have targeted you and called your name as being anti the administration. But basically, what you're saying is you're coming from a place of caring, a place of love as a concerned citizen who wants to see differences in the health sector. And I would ask the question, $10 million to light up the stadium,
and I suggest,
and there's a lot of basic equipments that the hospital does not have. So where are we going as a country? This is 2019. So much emphasis is being placed on tourism. What about our health sectors? What about our ordinary Grenadians? Because most of the people who go to the hospital is people from the lower income brackets. So is this an administration that truly cares about the poor and the vulnerable as they're championing? And this is a question that we must ask. And we're not here to bash the administration, but we're here to ask the difficult questions, and we're here to come up with solutions.
And you talk about the health sector, but you don't neglect to place emphasis on the productive sector, the agricultural sector as well, that once was the backbone of Caribbean economies. Now, I must give some credit to the Ministry of Agriculture and I guess the Ministry of Finance, because I'm hearing of projects that will place emphasis on agriculture, $4 million and $5 million. But every time I attend these forums and these technical sessions, the question I ask is, and the suggestion I also make, I'm not just going there to criticize but make suggestion, are we placing emphasis on changing mindsets? Are we placing emphasis on getting youth and women involved in agriculture, incorporating ICT into agriculture? Too much emphasis has been placed on tourism. And Grenada, I have heard across the region, is been seen as a model. And I'll admit, when you read some of these policies, they are brilliant on paper. But the implementation of these laws and policies and programs are what bothers me. Because again, you have the persons within key positions who are supporters of any administration. And if they perceive you to be anti-administration, you don't get support. How do we change that mindset? How do we ensure that future leaders, young people getting involved or getting into leadership roles, do not go into those roles with those mindsets? And for the leaders who are there, how do we change that mindset? How do we ensure that all of these projects and programs and policies trickle down to the person who needs it?
Most definitely. Most times we see those programs, and the programs go to supporters of a specific administration rather than the person who has.
But they will say that's not true. You hear the individuals within political parties saying that that's not true. They claim that they will support an individual or a group of people who want support. But in the community, we are hearing different stories. And that's why we have to bring it to the attention of the listening public and create our own platform to talk about it. Because they, on one side, you're hearing that's not true. We are offering support to anyone who needs it, but on the other end, when we go into communities, we're hearing totally different stories.
Well, what we could do, we could look at the scholarships that have been offered. I remember at age 26, I could speak from personal experience. There has been many experiences after with persons that I'm close to, family members, whoever it is. At age 26, I went into the scholarship desk, the Ministry of Education. Went to the scholarship desk, spoke to the lady there at the scholarship desk, and informed her that I would like to get a scholarship to go and study law, you know. I was told by the lady sitting there that I should go study maths in China because I'm a math teacher. I said, you know, that's not where my passion is. I would really like to go and do law. And she eventually told me that what I can do is go to the school, apply to the school directly, get the acceptance letter, bring it back to the scholarship desk, and hand it over to her, and there I will receive partial scholarship, partial funding. I paid for transcripts. I paid FedEx to send it to Canada, the university in Canada. I had to pay to get it sent back here. I brought back the acceptance letter to the same person at the scholarship desk. And when I brought it in, I was crushed. I was told by the same lady that, you know, and it was simple. There was no emotions, anything. I'm sorry, we can't help. By the same person. And, you know, we look at scholarships and everything, so many different things, although persons would say that there has been no bias, right? Persons would argue that this could never be true. But what happens when persons become victims? Then they realize that it is true. Some people turn a blind eye until they themselves become victims. And that's one of the problems we have. Persons do not want to be their brother's keeper because they might be benefiting, right? And we have to look at it from a holistic point of view. We have to sometimes make sacrifices. Now, what could have happened is that at that point, like I said, I was crushed. I was really crushed, honestly. I can't explain how crushed I was. I could have just given up and turned to the block and say, you know, well, I can't afford this, whatever, you know. Turn to the block, go line with the boys, smoke, drink, whatever, you know. I have seen it many times where persons turn to alcohol for relief, right? There's actually a 54-year-old gentleman, Mr. Paul Noel. His land that he has official legal documents for, his land was taken away by the court and by a particular lawyer, right? His land was taken away since 2013, and he has been fighting this case since 2013 to present, and he has still not received his land. And this gentleman has turned to alcohol and then turned back, going and drinking we call this thing LLB, and then turn back to alcohol again, because the pressure that people actually face. You know, when we actually go to the different communities and we sit and listen to the stories of people, many times we would pass someone on the street, and because they might have like the worst piece of clothing or whatever, we don't know their stories. We don't know where they came from. I could have been one of those persons, but, you know, I had God and I had my family to keep me strong, keep me together.
But again, I know I keep saying this over and over, strength in numbers. We are only going to know about these cases when individuals speak up and speak out against it. And fairfully so. We have a right enshrined within our constitution. Whether you think it was done legally or not, it is still the laws that we have been governed by since 1974. We have laws enshrined. We have rights. And the right of freedom of expression. What are we fearful about? If we come together as a people, many victims who are out there, this is now a platform for you to share your story.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to be on camera and you want to share the
Uh-huh.
story, maybe
Yeah.
one of us, no, feel
Uh-huh.
free to do it as long as it's factual,
Uh-huh.
and we'll share the
Yeah.
story. Because there are many person
Mm-hmm.
who were victimized by the police, who
True.
were
Very
victimized by
true.
politicians, who
Mm-hmm.
are have people whose human rights are infringed upon.
Mm-hmm.
The only how we are going
Yeah.
to know and the only how we can address
Uh-huh.
it is if we speak up.
Yeah.
You
We.
speaking up about your issue is only one, no,
Mm-hmm.
one person.
Mm-hmm.
I speaking up about my experiences. I'm only one person.
Mm-hmm.
If we come together as a team,
Mm-hmm.
then we have a voice,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what we are trying to prove: a
Uh-huh.
platform for
Uh-huh.
young people to speak up again about the issues that they are affected by,
Mm-hmm.
and to share their experiences, such as yours.
Mm-hmm. So there's so little time, so much to say, but in I don't know if I could give my ending speech now.
Go ahead.
Right, in ending, what I would like to say is that seeing that the program is called Woke, when I woke, I decided that the way to move forward is to educate myself as to the laws of the country. I'd like to encourage everyone, educate yourself with the laws. I would like to encourage everyone to be their brother's keeper, be empathetic, right? Don't only appreciate what you have, but look at what other persons do not have. Be a brother's keeper. Look out for everyone. The world would be such a better place if everyone showed love, right? And love is an important thing, and that's something that we're missing. This is what causes some of the problems. Um, I want to thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure sitting with you, a powerful young man and a powerful young lady. And notice I did say powerful. The things that we do at the end of the day, the way that we treat people, that is what would be remembered. Um, so thank you for having me, and keep doing what you all doing. It's
Yeah,
great.
we'll keep doing what we are doing, strength in numbers. We can't keep doing our work in isolation or in solace. And I want to encourage, young people listening and tuning into the program, older people as well. If you have experience, you're semi-retired or you're retired and you want to still give back to your community, here's an opportunity for you to, bridge that gap and work along with young people like myself, Earl and Augustine, Marshall, who are trying to create impact in our communities, in our respective sectors. So this is a plea, and for other young people who want to get involved, feel free, come on board. Strength in numbers. That's the only how we are going to have a voice.
Well, I just want to encourage everyone. This is an organic conversation, and every young person, elderly person who wants to be a part of work, you can reach out to each and every one of us. We're open to your suggestion. As Cassandra rightly said, some of you might have stories that you want to tell. Once it is factual, once it is true, we're willing to tell your stories for you. But also, again, it's as she stated, it's strength in unity, and we believe by coming together as young people, we can definitely have an impact with this movement. And it is not a political movement, but it is a movement for our country. This is for our generation, and this is for, probably our great great grandkids who we will never get to see. So it is very important to come together at this critical time, and to spark the minds of our people critically. Just to piggyback on what all would have said, it's time to empower ourselves through education. The Constitution is a powerful tool that we can use, and once we know our rights, then we can hold our leaders accountable. But once again, I must say it has been my pleasure being on this program. I have learned so much by having these wonderful young people on with me. They have shared so much with me and so much with our viewers as well. I just want to thank you once again for tuning in. Your support has been tremendous over the last 2 weeks, and to have you on this week as well, it is truly wonderful. Just before we end as well, I do want to thank Grenada Broadcast, Mr. George Grant, for providing young people with this platform to reach other young people and to create that conscious awakening. I must say Mr. Grant has his fingerprint on the future, which we deeply and passionately want to thank him.